wreckage drifted quietly in the void, spinning slowly against the cold backdrop of distant stars. A ship once elegant and advanced, now nothing more than a carcass of fractured alloy and flickering systems. Amid the debris, a faint signal pulsed, weak but steady, a cry for help in the silence of space. Zarnak, a scavenger from the Briel species, steered his ship toward the wreck with practiced calm. His six-fingered hands hovered over the controls, his emerald eyes scanning the console as he honed in on the signal. Most scavengers would ignore such a faint ping, assuming it was another automated distress beacon from a doomed freighter. But Zarnak had learned to follow his instincts, and something about this signal felt different. As he docked with the shattered remains of the vessel, he activated his ship's environmental seal. The hatch hissed open, revealing the dark interior. Panels sparked. Wires hung like vines. He stepped inside with his weapon drawn, just in case. The ship bore no insignia he recognized. No registry numbers. No databanks. Nothing. It was as though the vessel had been wiped clean of its history. But the signal continued, leading him to a sealed chamber at the rear of the ship. There, protected behind a cracked viewport, floated a stasis pod. Inside, a child. A human child. Zarnak's breath hitched. Humans were myths in most parts of the galaxy now, stories told in old spacer bars. Some said they'd all perished in the collapse. Others believed they had hidden away in some dark corner of the cosmos. But to find one here, in a derelict ship on the edge of the Horthak wastes? It was impossible, and yet the evidence was clear. He bypassed the pod's security with a few quick keystrokes, then lifted the small being into his arms. The child stirred, blinked slowly, and began to cry. The sound echoed unnaturally through the lifeless corridor. Zarnak didn't know why, but he pressed the child to his chest and whispered in his native tongue, "It's all right, little one. I've got you now." 15 years later, the boy, named Kael, stood on the observation deck of Zarnak's freighter, staring out at the swirl of stars beyond. He had grown tall, his dark hair tied back in a simple band. His eyes held a quiet fire, a mixture of human emotion and the calculated calm Zarnak had instilled in him. "You're up early," Zarnak said, entering the deck. "I had the dream again," Kael replied. "The one with the metal hand and the burning sky?" Kael nodded. "It's getting clearer. I see a tower. A voice. It keeps calling me by a name I don't recognize, Aurelius." Zarnak exhaled deeply, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Maybe it's time we find out who you really are." They traveled to the archive moon of Telera, a bastion of lost knowledge and outlawed technology. The moon orbited a gas giant, its surface covered in ancient temples and data vaults. The keepers of Telera were an order of scholars and rogue AIs, protectors of knowledge deemed too dangerous for the rest of the galaxy. Kael stepped into the archive chamber, his pulse quickening. The chamber shimmered with energy as holographic scrolls rotated in the air, languages he couldn't understand flickering like fireflies. A tall, serpentine AI named Mokrin glided toward them, its form composed of interwoven light strands. It stopped before Kael and blinked. "This one is marked," Mokrin said. "Marked how?" Zarnak asked. Mokrin extended a thin tendril of light toward Kael's chest. His DNA sequence contains subroutines, locked instructions. He is not merely human. He is engineered. "Engineered for what?" Kael asked. "To wield the Starforge." Zarnak stiffened. "That's a myth." "No," Mokrin said. "The Starforge was real. Built by the architects of the First Age. A weapon that can collapse or ignite stars. Only those of the Aurelius line can activate it. This boy is the last." Kael's legs weakened. His dream had been more than memory. It had been a message. "Where is the Starforge now?" "Hidden," Mokrin replied. "Buried within the remains of the Sol system. But others seek it as well. The Dominion of Varn is already en route." The name chilled the room. The Dominion of Varn was a growing empire of cybernetic tyrants who believed in galactic purity through technological domination. If they acquired the Starforge, they could enslave systems with a single thought, or burn those who resisted. Zarnak looked at Kael. "You don't have to do this." We can run, hide. No, Kael said, his voice steady. I need to know who I am. I need to stop them. They flew into the forbidden expanse of the Dead Soul System. Once the cradle of human civilization, it was now a floating graveyard. Earth, or what remained of it, was shattered. Mars was a mining ruin. Jupiter's moons had gone silent long ago. Kael felt a strange familiarity as they approached what used to be Mercury. Orbiting the molten core was an artificial shell, hexagonal plates interlocked like scales. The Starforge. But the Dominion had arrived. Their warships darkened the horizon, sleek constructs of black metal and red flame. Zarnok's freighter was no match. He activated stealth protocols, slipping past the Dominion's outer net. They docked with the outer husk of the Starforge, slipping inside through a maintenance port. The interior pulsed with forgotten energy. Columns of light stretched into infinity, and ancient machines hummed in time with Kael's heartbeat. At the core stood the control spire, a vertical monolith with a single biometric interface. As Kael approached, a voice echoed through the chamber. Aurelius unit, identity confirmed. Awaiting directive. He placed his hand on the panel. Light surged through his body, memories not his own flooding into him. Battles in long-lost galaxies. Cities of glass and flame. The creation of the Starforge to protect, not destroy, civilization. And the betrayal of his ancestors, who turned it into a weapon. I remember, Kael whispered. It was meant to heal stars. Restore life. Not end it. Outside, Dominion soldiers breached the station. Zarnok fought them off, firing plasma rounds down the corridor. But they kept coming. Kael! Hurry! Kael turned toward the control matrix. System, override Dominion commands. Lock their access. Override accepted. Dominion ships neutralized. On the surface of the Dominion fleet, power flickered. Turrets fell silent. Engines died. The Starforge had turned against them. But their leader, a cybernetic monstrosity named High Executor Varix, entered the chamber, dragging Zarnok with a blade to his throat. You are powerful, boy, Varix snarled. But still human. You care. That's your weakness. Kael stepped forward. Let him go. Give me control of the Starforge. Kael clenched his fists. The forge thrummed, sensing his rage. Let him go. Varix laughed. Or what? Kael didn't answer. He reached within himself, channeling the energy of the forge. The chamber filled with light. Time slowed. Varix turned to ash before he could scream. Zarnok collapsed to his knees, alive but shaken. Kael helped him up. You okay? Zarnok nodded. Remind me never to make you angry. With the Dominion neutralized, Kael issued a new directive to the Forge. Restore dead systems, reignite fallen stars, and transmit knowledge to all corners of the galaxy. As they left the Sol system, the shattered remnants of Earth glowed faintly. A sign that perhaps, one day, it too could be reborn. Back on their ship, Kael stared at the stars. He was no longer just an orphan. No longer just a mystery. He was Aurelius Kael, the Starborn, the last of his kind, and the first of something new. And his story was just beginning.